Chosen one, stop scrolling. Right now, stop. Have you ever wondered why you feel so different? Why you carry burdens others can't even see? Why doors slam shut just when breakthrough feels close, while everyone around you seems to glide through life untouched by the weight you bear? Here's a truth that will shatter everything you thought you knew about your struggles. You weren't chosen to have an easy life. You were chosen to have a powerful one. This isn't just a video. This is a summons, a divine transmission, a spiritual alert that has traveled from the throne room of heaven straight to your screen. Because 3 minutes ago, in realms beyond what your eyes can see, God released a list, not a suggestion, not a request, a divine draft notice, and beloved, your name is written on it. Chosen one, God has issued the list of those who must be ready, and you're in. That restlessness you've been feeling, that spiritual stirring that wakes you at 3 a.m., that's not anxiety, chosen one. That's your spirit recognizing the sound of its own name, being called from heaven's war room. The sealed scroll has been opened. Your assignment is being activated. And the enemy is panicking because he knows when you finally understand who you are, the entire spiritual atmosphere shifts. Right now, as these words wash over your soul, angelic forces are aligning. Generational chains are beginning to crack. And the breakthrough you've been crying for in secret, it's not coming, beloved. It's already here. It's been waiting for this moment for you to realize you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're heaven's secret weapon planted in them. If your heart is thundering right now, if something deep inside is saying this is for me, comment, I'm on the list below. Let the heavens know you've received the call. Like this message, not for vanity, but as a beacon to other chosen ones, scrolling in the darkness, wondering if they're alone. And thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're sowing seeds into a harvest that will feed souls you'll never meet. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your faith, your willingness to believe there's more. If this message is stirring something sacred in your spirit, go ahead. Because what I'm about to reveal will explain why your life has felt like a battleground and why that's about to become your greatest advantage. The list is real, chosen one. And it's time you discovered what being on it actually means. Why do you feel so alone in crowded rooms? Why does your heart race when others talk about their purpose, like it's some distant dream? While something inside you screams that yours is urgent, immediate, life or death. Why have you spent decades feeling like you're waiting for permission to step into a calling that's been burning in your chest since childhood? Because you've been carrying a secret your whole life, a secret that religion couldn't explain, that psychology couldn't heal, that success couldn't satisfy. You've been carrying the weight of divine selection, and the enemy has been working overtime to convince you it's all in your head. But it's not in your head, beloved. It's written in the heavens. Before the foundations of the earth were laid, before the first star ignited, before time itself drew its first breath, a list was written, not of the wealthy, not of the famous, not of the perfect or the polished, but of the prepared. And your name, dear one, your name was inscribed in that heavenly ledger with the blood of the Lamb before you ever drew breath. This isn't religious rhetoric. This isn't motivational fluff designed to make you feel special for 30 minutes. This is the whisper you've felt for decades finally finding its voice. It's why you never fit in with the crowd, why small talk felt like spiritual suffocation, why you've always sensed there was more, so much more waiting just beyond the veil of ordinary life. You were never overlooked. You were being hidden. Listen to what God declared through the prophet Jeremiah. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Do you understand what that means? Before your parents even met, before your great-grandparents drew their first breath, God knew your name. He knew your struggles. He knew your doubts. And He chose you anyway, not despite your brokenness, but because of how he planned to use it. The Apostle Paul understood this mystery when he wrote in Romans 8:30, "And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified." You're not waiting to be chosen, precious one. You were chosen in eternity past. You're not hoping to be called. You were called before the morning stars sang together. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. That ache you've carried all your life, that deep, gnawing sense that you were meant for more than paying bills and watching Netflix until you die, it wasn't delusion, it wasn't pride, it wasn't some psychological compensation for childhood trauma. It was your spiritual memory, remembering you're on the list. Your soul has been trying to tell you something your mind couldn't process. Every time you've felt restless in normal life, every time you've cried out, "There has to be more than this," every time you've looked at the brokenness around you and felt your heart break with divine compassion, that was your spirit, recognizing its assignment. Think about this. Why do certain injustices make you angrier than they make others? Why do you see solutions to problems that experts miss? Why do broken people gravitate toward you without understanding why? Why do you sense spiritual atmospheres that others walk through blind? Because you're not like everyone else. You never were supposed to be. The enemy has spent your entire lifetime trying to convince you that this inner knowing was arrogance, that your spiritual sensitivity was mental illness, that your prophetic dreams were just anxiety, that your inability to settle for mediocrity was a character flaw that needed therapy. But what if it was actually evidence that heaven had marked you for something extraordinary? What if every door that slammed shut was God protecting you from settling for less than his best? What if every relationship that ended was him clearing the path for divine connections? What if every financial struggle was him teaching you to depend on supernatural provision rather than your own strength? What if your greatest pain has been preparing you for your greatest purpose? The list is real, chosen one. It exists in realms your natural eyes can't see, written in languages your natural mind can't comprehend. But your spirit knows. It's always known. That's why you've never been able to shake the feeling that you're different. That's why normal has always felt like a straitjacket. That's why you've carried this holy discontent that no amount of success or comfort could satisfy. You're not crazy. You're called. You're not broken. You're being built. You're not behind. You're being positioned. And the very fact that you're hearing these words right now, that your heart is pounding with recognition, that something deep inside is saying, yes, this is me, that's not coincidence. That's confirmation. The same spirit that inspired these words is bearing witness with your spirit that you are indeed a child of God, chosen for such a time as this. If you feel this truth resonating in your bones, if your spiritual memory is awakening right now, if you're finally ready to stop running from who you were created to be, type "I remember" in the comments right now. Let heaven know that the amnesia is ending. Let other chosen ones know they're not alone. Because what I'm about to share next will explain why you've felt so isolated for so long, and why that isolation was actually divine preparation for the most important season of your life. You've wondered, haven't you? In those 3 a.m. moments when sleep escapes you and the weight of your story presses down like a stone on your chest, you've whispered it into the darkness. God, why me? Why the betrayal that cut so deep you thought you'd never trust again? Why the health scare that made you stare mortality in the face? Why the loss that left a hole so vast in your heart you wondered if it would ever feel whole again? Why the financial ruin that stripped away everything you thought defined your worth? Why the family member who turned their back on you when you needed them most? You've carried these questions like stones in your pockets, growing heavier with each unanswered prayer. And somewhere, in the deepest part of your soul, a terrible thought crept in. Maybe God is punishing me. Maybe I deserve this pain. Beloved, I'm about to shatter that lie forever. God wasn't punishing you. He was preparing you. Every scar you carry isn't evidence of your failure. It's proof of your selection. You see, the enemy didn't attack you randomly. He studied heaven's blueprints. He saw your name on a list you didn't even know existed. He saw what God was going to do through you, and he panicked. That betrayal? It wasn't just someone hurting you. It was a desperate attempt to break your ability to trust God's voice when it matters most. That health crisis? It wasn't just about your body, it was an attack on your faith, designed to make you question if God was really watching over you. That financial devastation? It wasn't about money, it was about trying to convince you that God couldn't provide, that you were on your own. The enemy fought you hardest because he saw the list you didn't know existed. He wasn't attacking your past, was trying to cancel your future. But here's what the devil didn't understand about the mathematics of heaven. Every blow designed to destroy you was actually forging you. Every tear you've cried became holy water, blessing the very ground your destiny would walk on. Every sleepless night wasn't just suffering, it was a prayer vigil preparing you for what's coming. Look at Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused and thrown into prison, forgotten for years in a dungeon, while his dreams seemed to mock him from the shadows. But when Pharaoh needed someone to save Egypt from famine, who did God choose? The man who had been refined in the fire of betrayal and abandonment. Joseph looked his brothers in the eye and said, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Your pain isn't punishment, chosen one. It's preparation for the salvation of many lives. Consider Job. He lost everything: his children, his wealth, his health. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of hidden sin. He sat in ashes, scraping his sores with broken pottery, wondering if God had forgotten his name. But God hadn't forgotten. He was showcasing Job's unshakable faith to all of heaven and earth. And when the trial was over, Job received double everything he had lost, not because he was perfect, but because he endured the refining fire and emerged as pure gold. Think about Naomi, who lost her husband and both her sons in a foreign land. She was so broken she changed her name to Mara, which means bitter. She felt abandoned, forgotten, cursed. But God was writing a love story through her daughter-in-law Ruth that would place them in the lineage of King David and ultimately Jesus Christ. Her deepest pain became part of the most beautiful redemption story in Scripture. And Anna the prophetess widowed after only 7 years of marriage. She spent the next 84 years in the temple, fasting and praying. 84 years of what looked like loss and loneliness. But God was positioning her to be one of the first people to see the Messiah with her own eyes and proclaim his coming to the world. Your suffering isn't random, beloved. It's strategic. Every tear you've shed has been collected in heaven's bottles. Every prayer you've whispered in desperation has been recorded in golden bowls before God's throne. Every time you got back up when everything in you wanted to stay down, angels stood and applauded your resilience. The refiner's fire doesn't burn to destroy, it burns to purify. And the gold that emerges from that furnace, it's worth more than anything that was consumed in the flames. Your scars aren't evidence of your brokenness, they're the ink your name was written with, on God's list of the chosen. You think you've been through hell? No, chosen one. You've been through preparation, and the enemy is terrified because he knows what's coming next. He's seen what God does with people who've been refined in the fire and refused to break. The very things that tried to disqualify you have actually qualified you. The pain that was meant to silence you has given you a voice that can speak hope to the hopeless. The betrayal that was supposed to make you bitter has made you better, more compassionate, more understanding, more anointed. If you've been through the fire but you're still standing, if you've been knocked down 7 times but got up 8, if your faith has been tested but not destroyed, drop A in the comments. Heaven sees your resilience. Angels are taking notes. And God is about to show you why every single thing you endured was worth it. Because the list isn't just about who gets chosen. It's about who gets chosen and has been proven capable of carrying the weight of their assignment without breaking. And you, precious soul, have just graduated from the Academy of Affliction. Now comes the real question. Are you ready to discover what you've been prepared for? You know what breaks my heart? Walking through life carrying the weight of heaven's assignment, yet feeling like you're the only one who sees what's coming. Feeling like you're crazy because you sense things others can't. Feeling isolated because your spirit operates on a frequency most people never tune into. But what if I told you that everything you've been experiencing, that restlessness, that spiritual sensitivity, that burden of always feeling different, what if those aren't flaws? What if they're your credentials? Your divine ID card proving you've been marked by the Almighty Himself. 1 Peter 2-9 declares with thunder, "You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession." Not were, not might be. You are. Present tense. Active. Happening right now as you breathe. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to discover. Being chosen comes with supernatural markings, spiritual fingerprints that identify you to both heaven and hell. And if you've been wondering why your life feels like a constant battlefield, it's because you carry something the darkness desperately wants to destroy before you realize what it is. The first marking. Discernment before the storm. You sense things before others see them, don't you? You walk into a room and immediately feel the spiritual temperature. You meet someone and something in your gut whispers danger, while everyone else is charmed. You've learned to trust that inner alarm system because it's saved you more times than you can count. This isn't paranoia, beloved. This is prophecy in motion. God has wired you with spiritual radar that detects what's coming before it manifests in the natural realm. You're like a human weather station for the supernatural, feeling the atmospheric pressure change before the storm hits. Remember when Jesus told his disciples, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." He wasn't just speaking about a past, even though was demonstrating the kind of spiritual sight that sees beyond the veil. That same gift pulses in your DNA. You see the unseen. You feel the unfelt. You know what others only guess at. But here's the brutal truth. This gift has cost you, hasn't it? People have called you negative, too sensitive, overly cautious. They've made you question your own intuition. They've convinced you to ignore that inner voice. And every time you did, didn't you regret it later? The second marking. Spiritual gravity. Children run to you. Animals calm in your presence. Strangers tell you their deepest secrets within minutes of meeting you. You've noticed this pattern your whole life, but you've written it off as coincidence. It's not coincidence. It's spiritual gravity. You emit a frequency that pure hearts recognize instantly. Children haven't been corrupted by the world's cynicism, yet they still operate in spiritual truth. Animals live by instinct and energy. They're drawn to you because you carry something they recognize, the presence of the living God. But here's what's profound. Even broken people find themselves confessing to you. Strangers spill their pain in grocery store aisles. Co-workers share struggles they've never told anyone. Why? Because they sense safety in your spirit. They feel the love of Christ emanating from you, even when you don't realize you're radiating it. This isn't about being friendly or having good social skills. This is about carrying an anointing that makes people hunger for what you have, even when they can't name what it is they're hungry for. The third marking, prophetic manifestation. This one might shake you to your core, but I need you to hear it. What you speak, what you dream, what you imagine with intention, it happens with frightening accuracy. You've seen it over and over. You mention something in passing, and within days or weeks, it manifests. You have a vivid dream, and suddenly you're living it in real time. This isn't the law of attraction, beloved. This is the power of agreement with heaven. Romans 11:29 promises us, the gifts and callings of God are irrevocable. That means once God downloads prophetic power into your spirit, it doesn't get recalled, it doesn't expire, it grows stronger with use. But here's what terrifies the enemy. You're starting to realize this power is real. You're beginning to understand that your words carry weight in the spiritual realm, that your prayers don't just bounce off the ceiling, they move mountains, open doors, and shift circumstances. You've been a lighthouse your entire life, but you didn't realize you were shining because you've always been surrounded by fog. The confusion, the isolation, the feeling of being misunderstood, that was the fog designed to keep you from seeing your own light. But the fog is lifting now. The spiritual atmosphere is clearing, and suddenly you can see what heaven has always seen. A warrior of light, equipped with supernatural discernment, radiating divine love, and carrying the power to speak things into existence. You're not broken, chosen one. You're not too much, too sensitive, too intense. You're exactly what this broken world needs: a lighthouse cutting through the darkness, guiding lost souls home to hope. The enemy has spent decades trying to convince you that your markings were flaws, that your sensitivity was weakness, that your spiritual gifts were just coincidence or imagination. But every time he whispered those lies, something deep inside you resisted, didn't it? Something in your spirit said, "No, there's more to this." That resistance was your divine DNA refusing to be silenced. If any of these signs confirm something in you, if recognition is burning in your chest right now, comment, "That's me," below. Let the universe know you're ready to stop hiding your light under a bushel and start shining with the full intensity heaven designed you for. Because something is shifting in the spiritual realm, and God needs his marked ones to step forward. He needs his chosen generation to stop questioning their calling and start walking in their authority. The question is, will you answer when heaven calls your name? Listen to me, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shake the very foundation of how you see your life, your struggles, and your destiny. For too long, you've been walking around thinking you're just surviving barely, making it through another day, another disappointment, another closed door. But heaven has been watching. Heaven has been recording. And heaven has just issued a divine decree that changes everything. You want to know why your prayers have felt like they hit the ceiling, why breakthrough seems to dance just beyond your fingertips? Because God wasn't ignoring you, he was preparing you. Every rejection was protection. Every delay was divine positioning. Every tear you cried in secret was watering the ground for a harvest so massive, so overwhelming, that when it hits, the world won't be able to explain it. Right now, in the throne room of the Almighty, your file is open. Angels are standing at attention, and God himself is saying, "It's time." Not next month, not when you feel ready, now. Heaven is not passive, it's moving. The list is being activated. You are in your 7-day countdown. Do you remember Joshua at Jericho? 7 days of marching around walls that seemed impossible to bring down. The people whispered, "This is foolish. This makes no sense." But on that 7th day, when the trumpets sounded and the people shouted, those walls didn't just crack, they collapsed completely. Joshua 6:5 declares, "When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout, then the wall of the city will collapse." Beloved, you've been marching around your own Jericho for years. Those financial walls, those health battles, those family struggles that seem generational and unbreakable. But your 7th day is here. And when God says shout, every barrier that has held you captive is about to crumble into dust. But here's what's going to shock you. The enemy has been fighting you so hard precisely because he can see what's coming. He knows your assignment. He knows your anointing. He knows that when you step into who God created you to be, entire spiritual atmospheres shift. That's why the attacks intensified. That's why the loneliness deepened. That's why the pressure mounted. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on people who don't threaten his kingdom. You think you're just an ordinary person trying to get by. Then why has hell been so interested in stopping you? Let me tell you something that will revolutionize how you see your story. Esther was just an orphan girl. No connections, no platform, no influence. But Mordecai looked at her and said, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Esther 4:14. She wasn't chosen because she was perfect. She was chosen because she was positioned. And you, chosen one, you've been positioned too. Every hardship was positioning. Every setback was strategic placement. Every broken dream was God removing what would have been a distraction from your true calling. The list that God has issued isn't just names on paper, it's a military deployment, a spiritual activation, a divine commission that comes with authority, power, and supernatural backing. Your name isn't there by accident. It's there because heaven has work to do, and you're the vessel He's chosen to do it through. But let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. How long are you going to keep playing small? How long are you going to let fear convince you that you're not qualified? How long are you going to hide behind excuses while the world desperately needs what God placed inside you? Because here's the truth that's going to wreck every excuse you've ever made. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Moses had a speech impediment. David was too young. Gideon was too afraid. Paul was too violent. But when God said go, they went, and heaven moved with them. You are no longer hidden, you are being deployed. And when you step out, watch how heaven accelerates everything. The favor that's been building up behind the scenes is about to break open like a dam. Doors that have been sealed for years are going to swing wide. People who never noticed you are going to seek you out. Resources that seemed impossible to access are going to flow toward you like rivers rushing to the sea. This isn't wishful thinking. This isn't positive psychology. This is prophetic declaration over your life. The God who parted the Red Sea, who made the sun stand still, who raised the dead, that same God is saying over you right now, my child, your season of preparation is over. Your season of manifestation has begun, but you have to move. You have to act. You have to step into the calling that's been whispering your name. Because destiny doesn't come to the comfortable, it comes to the obedient. The clock isn't just ticking, it's thundering. This moment, this message, this stirring in your spirit, it's all part of God's perfect timing. You're not watching this by accident. You're here because your activation has begun. Write today's date in the comments. Seal it. This is your activation timestamp. This is the moment you stop being a spectator of your own destiny and start being the warrior God created you to be. The list is real. Your name is on it. And heaven is waiting to see what you'll do with the authority you've just been handed. But here's what nobody talks about, chosen one. The greatest battle you'll face isn't against circumstances. It isn't against people. It's against the voice in your own head that whispers, maybe you misheard God. Maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you should wait until you're more ready. That voice? It's not wisdom, it's warfare. Doubt is a thief that comes dressed as caution. It slips into your mind at 2 a.m. when you're lying awake, feeling the weight of your calling, and it whispers, who are you to think God would choose someone like you? It shows up when you're about to step forward in faith and suddenly floods your mind with every past failure, every mistake, every reason why you're not qualified. Listen to me carefully. That doubt didn't come from heaven. God doesn't operate in confusion. He doesn't call you chosen one day and then spend the next week reminding you of your shortcomings. That's the enemy's voice, and he's terrified because he knows what happens when God's chosen ones finally wake up to who they are. Delay is disobedience in disguise. How many times have you felt the Holy Spirit nudge you forward, only to respond with, let me think about it, or maybe next year when things settle down? Every time you say maybe later to God, you hand your assignment to someone else. You literally give away the breakthrough that was designed specifically for your fingerprints, your DNA, your unique calling. Think about this for a moment. How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers because you were waiting for the perfect moment? How many doors closed while you were still deciding whether to walk through them? The enemy doesn't have to stop you. He just has to slow you down long enough for the window to close. You know what terrifies the kingdom of darkness more than anything? Not your prayers, not your worship, not even your faith. What terrifies hell is your obedience. Because when you move in immediate obedience to God's voice, you become unstoppable. You become a force that demons can't calculate or manipulate. Remember Martha in Luke chapter 10. Jesus comes to her house. The Son of God himself is sitting in her living room. And what does she do? She gets busy. She starts worrying about dinner preparations, cleaning, making everything perfect. Meanwhile, her sister Mary sits at Jesus' feet, receiving directly from the Master. And when Martha complains, Jesus gives her one of the most sobering responses in all of Scripture. Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better. Martha was so busy preparing for Jesus that she missed Jesus. She was so focused on doing something for God that she missed what God was trying to do for her. And right now, at this very moment, many of you are making the same mistake. You're so busy getting ready to be ready that you're missing the very moment God is speaking. Here's the shocking truth that will shake you to your core. You're not waiting on God. Heaven is waiting on your response. God isn't sitting in heaven wondering if he made the right choice in calling you. He's not second-guessing your qualifications or waiting for you to get your act together. The creator of the universe, who spoke galaxies into existence, isn't confused about your readiness. He's waiting for your yes, not your perfect yes, not your qualified yes, not your someday yes. Your right now, trembling, imperfect, faith-filled yes. Every second you hesitate is another second that breakthrough is delayed, not because God's timing is off, but because your obedience is the key that unlocks what he's already prepared. The Red Sea didn't part until Moses raised his staff. The walls of Jericho didn't fall until the Israelites marched. The miracle you're waiting for is waiting for you to move. Fear will try to convince you that you need more training, more resources, more confirmation. But fear is a liar. Faith says God's calling is God's enabling. When he calls you, he's already equipped you. When he opens a door, he's already prepared the path. When he whispers your name, he's already made provision for your yes. You've been rehearsing failure so long that you've forgotten how to expect victory. You've been planning for disappointment so thoroughly that you can't recognize opportunity when it's standing right in front of you. But God is calling you out of the rehearsal room and onto the stage where your real life is waiting. Stop negotiating with your calling. Stop trying to edit God's plan to fit your comfort zone. Stop waiting for courage to come and choose to be courageous with the fear. Every giant you've been running from has been assigned to make you stronger. Every mountain you've been avoiding is the very place God wants to meet you. The enemy's strategy has always been delay and distraction. He doesn't need you to reject God's call, just needs you to postpone it until the season passes. But chosen one, this is your season. This is your moment. This is your now. Say it now, out loud. Yes, Lord, I say yes. That yes is the key unlocking your next season. That yes breaks every chain of delay and activates heaven's response to your faith. But here's what happens the moment you say yes. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What's happening to you right now isn't coincidence, it's divine coordination. While you've been wondering if God has forgotten your name, he's been whispering it in rooms you've never entered. Your name has been spoken in boardrooms where decisions about your future are being made. It's been mentioned in conversations between people who don't even know they're being used as God's instruments. Right now, somewhere in this nation, someone with the power to change your circumstances is feeling a stirring they can't explain and they don't even know it's about you yet. But here's what will absolutely shock you. You think you're waiting for your breakthrough, but the truth is, your breakthrough has been waiting for you to get ready to receive it. Think about Joseph. One day he's rotting in an Egyptian prison, forgotten by everyone who promised to remember him. The next day, Pharaoh has a dream that troubles his spirit, and suddenly the most powerful man in the ancient world is asking, where is that Hebrew prisoner who interprets dreams? In 24 hours, Joseph went from forgotten to favored, from prisoner to prime minister. What changed? Did Joseph suddenly become more qualified? Did he gain new skills overnight? Number. The positioning had already been done. God had already been whispering Joseph's name in the palace. The preparation was complete. All that remained was the divine appointment. Daniel faced the same impossible promotion, a foreign exile in Babylon, yet when King Nebuchadnezzar needed wisdom, somehow this young Hebrew's name surfaced. "There is a man in your kingdom," they said, "in whom is the spirit of the holy gods." Daniel's gift didn't just make room for him, it made him indispensable to the most powerful empire on earth. Proverbs 18:16 tells us the eternal truth. A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. Your gift isn't just talent, beloved. Your gift is the divine DNA that God placed in you before you drew your first breath. And that gift has been creating space for you in places you haven't even imagined yet. But here's where it gets personal. How many times have you wondered why you feel so restless? Why you can't shake the feeling that you're meant for more? Why ordinary feels like prison and mediocrity feels like death? That's not discontent, that's divine displacement. God has positioned you for rooms your current circumstances can't access, but your spirit already knows they exist. The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that your struggles mean you're disqualified, that your age means you're too late, that your past means you're unworthy, that your current address means you're unreachable. But every lie he's whispered is about to be exposed when the right door opens and the right person says your name. Right now, there are conversations happening about opportunities you don't even know exist. There are people in positions of influence who are about to encounter a problem that only your gift can solve. There are divine appointments being scheduled in heaven's calendar with your name on them. You see, God doesn't just give you favor, He gives you strategic favor. He doesn't just open doors, He opens the exact doors you need at the precise moment you need them. And the people who will usher you into your next level, they're already in position. They're already praying for the answer you represent. They're already asking God to send them the person with your exact gift. The meeting is coming, chosen one. The divine appointment that will shift everything is already scheduled. Your name isn't just on a list, it's on the list. The list of those who will move from obscurity to influence, from struggle to significance, from waiting to reigning. But here's the question that will determine everything. When your name is called from those rooms of power, when your gift is requested by those who can change your life forever, will you be ready for the room? If this is resonating in your spirit right now, if something deep inside is confirming what I'm speaking, comment, "I'm ready for the room." Because what's about to happen next will prepare you for encounters you never saw coming. You're not here by accident, beloved. 3 minutes ago, your name was called from heaven's registry. You were on the list. But what good is a name on a list if you never respond? What good is being chosen if you remain frozen at the threshold of your destiny? Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will shake you to your core. There is a door in the spirit. Right now, as these words pierce through the veil of your doubt, that door stands wide open. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know: it's only open for a short time. And what's behind it will change everything you thought was impossible about your life. You've been standing at this threshold longer than you realize. Every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every moment you felt forgotten, you've been circling this same spiritual door. But you've been afraid to walk through it. Why? Because you've been conditioned to believe you're not worthy. You've been programmed to think that miracles happen to other people, not to you. But God didn't put your name on that list because you're perfect. He put it there because you're ready. Jesus told a parable that will pierce your heart. While they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Matthew 25:10. 5 wise virgins prepared. 5 foolish ones hesitated. The difference wasn't intelligence, it was readiness. The difference wasn't worthiness, it was willingness. Which one are you? Right now, in this very moment, you're standing where those wise virgins stood. The bridegroom is approaching. The door is swinging open. Behind that door lies everything you've been crying out for in your midnight prayers. Your identity not as the broken person you see in the mirror, but as the warrior God created you to be. Your healing not just physical, but emotional, generational, spiritual. Your instructions clear, direct, undeniable direction for the next chapter of your life. And your acceleration, supernatural speed that will make up for every lost year, every wasted opportunity, every stolen dream. But you have to choose. Right now, today, in this sacred moment, when heaven and earth collide on your screen. I know what you're thinking. I've been disappointed before. I've believed and nothing happened. I've walked through doors that led to more pain. But listen to me, those weren't the door. Those were tests. Those were preparations. Those were God strengthening your faith muscles for this moment, when the real door opens and you have to decide, will you step through or will you stay stuck? You've been praying for answers. You've been begging God for a sign. You've been pleading for breakthrough. But here's a truth that will rock your world. This is not the time to pray. This is the time to walk. The Israelites stood at the Red Sea for one reason: to cross it. But they had to take the first step into the impossible. Moses didn't pray the waters apart. He obeyed God's command to stretch out his staff and move forward. David didn't pray Goliath to death. He picked up stones and ran toward the giant. Esther didn't pray away the danger to her people. She stepped into the throne room uninvited, knowing it could cost her life. What is God asking you to step into today that terrifies you but thrills your spirit? You know what it is. In the deepest part of your soul, you know exactly what that door represents. It's the thing you've been avoiding, the conversation you've been postponing, the step of faith that makes no logical sense, but every spiritual sense. The release of control that feels like death but births resurrection. The door is open, but it won't stay open forever. This isn't a manipulation, it's a divine reality. Windows of opportunity close. Seasons shift. What's available today may not be available tomorrow. The 5 foolish virgins learned this the hard way when they heard the words that still echo through eternity. Truly, I tell you, I don't know you. Don't let that be your story. Your hesitation isn't protecting you, it's imprisoning you. Your fear isn't keeping you safe, it's keeping you small. Your doubt isn't wisdom, it's warfare against your destiny. If you know this door is for you, if your heart is pounding and your spirit is stirring, and something inside is screaming, "This is my moment," then stop analyzing and start moving. Comment, "I'm stepping in below," not as a ritual, but as a declaration, not as superstition, but as surrender. Because on the other side of that door, God is waiting with everything you need to become everything He created you to be. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is, will you trust Him enough to find out? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. For the past few months, maybe even years, you've been experiencing something that no one else seems to understand. Strange dreams that feel more real than your waking hours. Numbers that follow you everywhere you look. A restlessness in your spirit that won't let you settle for the ordinary anymore. You thought you were losing your mind, didn't you? You've questioned your sanity, wondered if the isolation was making you see things that weren't there. But what if I told you that everything you've been experiencing, every supernatural sign, every divine disruption, has been God's way of preparing you for this exact moment? Those aren't coincidences, beloved. They're confirmations. You've been seeing 11:11 on every clock you glance at, 4:44 when you wake up in the middle of the night, 777 on license plates, receipts, phone numbers. You've tried to dismiss them, but they keep coming. Here's what heaven wants you to know. Those aren't random numbers, they're timestamps. Heaven has a calendar, and you're right on schedule. In Daniel 2:21, the word declares, He changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. God operates on divine timing, and these numerical sequences are His way of saying, pay attention. Something is shifting in the spiritual realm. But the signs go deeper than numbers, don't they? Your body feels it first. There's an electricity in your bones, a vibration in your chest that science can't explain. Your sleep patterns have changed completely. You're either sleeping deeper than you ever have, receiving downloads in your dreams, or you're awake at 3 a.m. with a clarity that feels supernatural. Your appetite has shifted. Food that once satisfied you now tastes like dust because your spirit is being fed from a different source. Even your relationships are changing, and this is the part that hurts the most. People who used to understand you now look at you like you're speaking a foreign language. Friends who once called daily now feel like strangers. Family members who used to support your dreams are suddenly filled with doubt and fear about your future. You've been asking God, why does everyone feel so far away? Here's the answer that will change everything. You've outgrown where you were. That door God is opening for you, it's not taking everyone. In Exodus 12:38, we read about the mixed multitude that left Egypt with the Israelites. But not everyone who started the journey made it to the promised land. Some couldn't handle the wilderness. Some preferred the familiar bondage to the uncertain freedom. Your spiritual DNA is being rewritten, and the frequency you're operating on now doesn't match the frequency of people still comfortable in Egypt. This isn't rejection, it's realignment. Jesus himself said in Matthew 10:36, "A man's enemies will be the members of his own household." Not because they're evil, but because transformation threatens those who aren't ready to transform. And here's where it gets intense, chosen one. God isn't just opening new doors for you, He's closing old ones behind you. That job that felt secure but left your soul empty, those relationships that drained your energy, those opportunities that looked good on paper but felt wrong in your spirit, they're disappearing not as punishment, but as protection. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot hold on to Egypt while walking into Canaan. The Red Sea doesn't part until you're fully committed to leaving slavery behind. Your dreams have shifted completely, haven't they? You're no longer dreaming about your past or your fears. Now you're receiving blueprints, strategies, warnings, and confirmations. You're seeing yourself in positions of authority, influence, and impact that your natural mind says are impossible. But your spirit recognizes these dreams as prophetic previews of what God is preparing. Joel 2:28 promises, "I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions." This is that hour. Your dreams aren't escapism, they're divine intelligence. But here's the question that will determine your next 10 years. Are you going to trust the process, or are you going to keep looking back at what God is deliberately removing from your life? The signs are undeniable. The door is open, but you have to make a choice that will echo through eternity. Type, "I release what's behind me," in the comments and mean it with every fiber of your being. Because what God has prepared for you on the other side of this door will make every loss, every lonely night, every misunderstood moment worth it. But first, you must let go of what your hands are still desperately clutching from your past. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. What you're experiencing right now, that sudden fear that grips your chest at 2 a.m., those unexpected attacks on your peace, those nights when sleep feels like a distant memory, you're not losing your mind. You're not being punished, and you're definitely not being abandoned by God. You're in the hallway. Picture this. There's a sacred space between your last chapter and your next breakthrough. It's not a comfortable place. It's narrow, it's dark, and it's filled with whispers that sound suspiciously like your own voice telling you to turn back. This hallway is where destinies are either birthed or buried. And right now, beloved, you're walking through it. That pressure you feel crushing down on your spirit, those aren't random hardships, those are contractions. Because this hallway isn't just a corridor, it's a womb. And what's happening to you right now is the same thing that happens to every woman before she delivers. The pain intensifies right before the miracle arrives. Think about it. When has the enemy ever fought this hard for something that wasn't worth fighting for? When has hell ever deployed this level of warfare against someone who wasn't about to step into something massive? Here's what they don't tell you in Sunday school. The closer you get to your divine assignment, the louder the opposition becomes. It's not because God has forgotten you. It's because the enemy knows exactly who you are and what you're about to become. And he's terrified. Look at Jesus. 40 days in the wilderness, being tempted by the devil himself right before he started his ministry. Look at David. Anointed as king by Samuel, then spent years running for his life from Saul right after God called him. Look at Joseph. Dreams of greatness, then thrown into a pit by his own brothers right after heaven revealed his destiny. Do you see the pattern? The warfare isn't random. It's confirmation that you're walking in the right direction. But here's where it gets real, and I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. That voice telling you to quit, that's not wisdom. That's not God protecting you from disappointment. That's fear, disguised as common sense, trying to rob you of the very thing you've been praying for. You know that moment when you're almost at the top of a mountain, and every muscle in your body is screaming to stop. Your lungs are burning, your legs are shaking, and that voice in your head says, just sit down, just rest. You've climbed far enough. But if you listen to that voice, if you stop just 50 feet from the summit, you'll never see the view you've been climbing for. That's exactly where you are right now. Hell wouldn't be fighting this hard if you weren't inches from the door. Think about the Israelites at the edge of the Red Sea. Behind them, Pharaoh's army thundering closer. In front of them, an impossible wall of water. And what did they want to do? Go back to Egypt. Go back to slavery. Because at least slavery was familiar. At least bondage felt safe. But Moses, that shepherd warrior, stood between panic and promise and declared, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Not still as in inactive, still as in unmovable, unshakable, refusing to retreat. Some of you reading this right now have been in this hallway for months, maybe years, and you're exhausted. I get it. You've been walking through what feels like an endless tunnel, and you're starting to wonder if there's really light at the end or if you've been chasing an illusion. Let me tell you something that's going to change how you see this battle. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. Demons don't gather for meetings about people who aren't a threat. If your life feels like a spiritual war zone right now, congratulations, you're dangerous. You're carrying something that hell wants to stop before it's fully activated. But here's the mistake most people make in the hallway. They think the goal is to get comfortable in the pressure. The goal is to keep walking despite the pressure. The goal is to understand that this discomfort is temporary, but the destination is eternal. Remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? The furnace was heated 7 times hotter than normal, not because they were weak, but because they were strong. Not because God was absent, but because he was about to show up in a way that would make kings tremble and nations remember. Your furnace moment, your hallway season, your pressure cooker circumstances, they're not your punishment. They're your preparation. They're not your ending. They're your evidence that something unprecedented is about to break loose in your life. And when you finally step through that door, when you finally emerge from this hallway into your destiny, you're going to look back and understand why every single battle was necessary. Why every sleepless night was strategically orchestrated to build your endurance. Why every attack was actually strengthening muscles you didn't even know you had. The question isn't whether you'll make it through. The question is, will you keep walking, or will you turn back when you're closer than you've ever been? So let me ask you directly, chosen one. Are you going to let the warfare convince you that you're on the wrong path? Or are you going to recognize it as confirmation that you're on the exact right one? Because hell wouldn't be fighting this hard if you weren't inches from the door. And heaven is holding its breath, waiting to see if you'll take that final step. Listen carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you might be the most important words you'll hear this year. God isn't sending a generic message to 7 billion people. He's not broadcasting to the masses. Right now, in this sacred moment, he's whispering directly to you. You feel it, don't you? That stirring in your chest. That holy restlessness that's been building for weeks, maybe months. You've been sensing something's about to shift. but you can't quite put your finger on what. That's because God has been preparing your spirit to receive personal instructions that will change everything. Here's what most believers never understand. God doesn't speak to crowds the way he speaks to his chosen ones. When Moses stood before the burning bush, it wasn't a public announcement. When Samuel heard his name called in the night, it wasn't a conference call. When Mary received the angel's visit, she was alone. The most life-altering instructions from heaven come in whispers, not shouts. So let me ask you something that might shake you to your core. When was the last time you were truly still enough to hear God's voice? Not during Sunday service when the pastor's talking. Not while you're praying your usual prayers on autopilot. I'm talking about bone-deep stillness, where your spirit can actually receive what heaven is downloading. Isaiah 30:21 says it perfectly. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." But here's the devastating truth: most of God's chosen ones are moving so fast, so distracted by the noise of this world, that they're missing the very voice that could redirect their entire destiny. Look around your life right now. What is God telling you to release? That relationship that's been draining your spirit for years, that job that pays the bills but kills your soul, that grudge you've been nursing like a wounded animal. What is he asking you to pick up? That dream you buried because someone said you were too old, that calling you've been running from because it scares you. What is he asking you to revisit? That conversation you need to have, that apology you need to make, that risk you need to take? You know what it is. Your spirit is already telling you, but you've been too afraid to listen because deep down you know that once you hear God clearly, you can't unhear it. Once you know what he's asking, you become responsible for obeying it. Here's the shocking reality. You're like a soldier in a spiritual war zone, and your commander has been trying to give you field instructions that could save your life. But instead of pressing your ear to the radio, you've got your headphones on, scrolling through social media, watching the news, filling every moment with noise that drowns out the one voice that matters most. The enemy isn't worried about your prayers, chosen one. He's terrified of your stillness, because in the quiet, God reveals strategies that demolish demonic strongholds. In the silence, heaven downloads wisdom that makes you unstoppable. In the stillness, you receive clarity that cuts through years of confusion like a sword through darkness. So here's what you're going to do, and this isn't a suggestion, it's a divine directive. After this message ends, you're going to turn off every device. No phone, no television, no music. You're going to find the quietest corner of your home, grab a pen and paper, and you're going to get still, not for 5 minutes, not until you get bored, for 30 full minutes. And here's the part that separates the chosen from the curious. You're going to listen before you pray. Most people pray at God instead of with God. They show up with their grocery list of requests without ever asking what he wants to say first. But you, chosen one, you're going to reverse that. You're going to create space for his voice before you speak yours. Get your journal ready. Write down everything that comes to your spirit. Don't edit it. Don't judge it. Don't rationalize it away. Because God often speaks in ways that challenge your logic but pierce your heart. He might bring up something from 20 years ago that needs healing. He might reveal a person you need to forgive. He might show you a door he's been trying to open while you've been banging on walls. Here's what I know after 50 years of walking with the Lord. God's instructions always come with 3 things. First, they come with peace that doesn't make sense given your circumstances. Second, they come with power to accomplish what seems impossible. Third, they come with urgency that won't let you rest until you obey. But here's the part that breaks my heart. Most of God's chosen ones miss their moment because they're waiting for a burning bush when he's speaking through a gentle breeze. They're expecting thunder when he's using whispers. They're looking for signs in the sky when he's moving in the stillness of their spirit. God isn't shouting over the noise of your life, beloved. He's speaking in your stillness. And if you keep missing these divine interruptions because you're too distracted, too busy, too plugged into everything except His presence, you'll miss the very instructions that could turn your wilderness into your promised land. This is your moment, chosen one. Not tomorrow when life slows down, not next week when things get easier. Right now, your spiritual commander is waiting to give you orders that will shift everything. The question is, are you finally ready to get still enough to receive them? Turn off the noise, pick up that pen, get ready to hear from heaven. Because what God is about to tell you will change everything. Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to hold on to 3 unshakable truths that will anchor your soul in the days ahead. First, your name being on God's list isn't a burden, it's your greatest blessing. Every struggle you've endured, every tear you've shed in secret, every moment you felt forgotten, it was all preparation for this divine appointment. You weren't chosen because you're perfect. You were chosen because you're faithful. Second, the instructions God is giving you right now aren't suggestions you can consider when life gets convenient. They're divine directives that require immediate obedience. Your breakthrough isn't waiting for perfect timing. It's waiting for your willingness to move when God says move. Third, the stillness I've called you to isn't just a spiritual exercise, it's your lifeline to heaven's strategy room. In a world screaming for your attention, your ability to hear God's whisper will become your greatest weapon against confusion, fear, and delay. But here's what I want you to know with absolute certainty. You are not walking this path alone. Even when the night feels darkest, even when the silence feels overwhelming, even when obedience feels impossible, the God who called you is the same God who will sustain you. He who began this good work in you will be faithful to complete it. And you have something even more precious, a community of believers who understand your calling because they share it. Right here, in this space, thousands of chosen ones gather to encourage, pray for, and strengthen one another. You're part of a spiritual family that spans continents and generations. So let me ask you this. What would your life look like 6 months from now if you actually obeyed what God whispers to you in the stillness? What generational chains would be broken? What dreams would be resurrected? What impossible doors would swing wide open? Before you leave this sacred moment, I want to pray over you with the authority of someone who has walked this path for 5 decades, someone who has seen God's faithfulness in the wilderness and His provision in the storm. Father God, I place my hand on the shoulder of every chosen one hearing these words. Lord, you see them, not just their potential, but their pain. Not just their calling, but their confusion. Not just their destiny, but their doubts. Right now, I ask you to breathe fresh hope into weary hearts. Open doors that no man can shut. Release provision that defies their circumstances. Give them supernatural peace that silences every fear and divine wisdom that cuts through every confusion. Lord, as they step into the stillness you've called them to, meet them there. Speak so clearly that they cannot misunderstand, so powerfully that they cannot resist, so lovingly that they cannot doubt your goodness. Break every chain that has held their family line captive. Heal every wound that has whispered lies about their worth. Restore every dream that's been buried under disappointment. And Father, surround them with your favor like a shield. Let their obedience unlock blessings that overflow into generations. Give them the courage to step into their calling, the strength to endure the process, and the wisdom to trust your timing in all things. May they know beyond any shadow of doubt that they are loved, chosen, and destined for greatness in your kingdom. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now, beloved, don't let this moment fade into memory. In the comments below, tell us what God spoke to your heart during this message. Share the word or phrase that stopped you in your tracks. Ask for prayer if you need it. This community will surround you with love and intercession. Your testimony might be the very encouragement another chosen one needs to take their next step of faith. And if this message stirred something deep in your spirit, please share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone in their calling. Tag a friend, send it to a family member, post it on your page, because somewhere, someone is scrolling in desperation, wondering if God still sees them. You could be the vessel He uses to remind them they're on the list too. Thank you for staying until the very end. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to download into your spirit. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because God isn't finished speaking to His chosen ones. More messages, more encouragement, more divine strategies are coming. Remember, chosen one, your name is written in heaven's book, your steps are ordered by the Lord, and your destiny is secure in His hands. Now go get still, listen for His voice, and step boldly into everything He's prepared for you. The King is calling. Your time is now.